Hello, welcome back to Leadership with Darrell W. Gunter on WSOU 89.5 FM and streaming on the net at WSOU.net. So today I want to share with you the objective of our show is simple and purposeful to bring forth ideas, practices, ethics, and morals that leaders must model. Leadership is not a title, it is a behavior. It is responsibility. It is stewardship. On this program, we explore how accomplished individuals lead in business, in academia, in community, and in life so that each of us can elevate our own standard of leadership. Today, I am honored and very happy to have a very dear industry friend on the show, Mr. David L. Sampson. He is the Vice President and Chief Publishing Officer at the New England Journal of Medicine. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Darrell.
So, David, your career journey has been very interesting. You have over 20 years experience in science, technical, and medical publishing, including leadership roles at ASCO, Elsevier, and extensive work in international business development. As the Vice President and Chief Publishing Officer at New England Journal of Medicine, NEJM Group, how has your background shaped your vision for the future of this organization?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Darrell, thank you for the generous math. I've actually, and I have mixed feelings admitting this, but I've worked for almost 40 years in medical publishing for different organizations that you've noted, plus Wolters Kluwer. And, my experience has, I guess, reinforced one constant, and that is that the institutions, the companies that thrive through disruption are the ones that lead with their strengths rather than chasing the technology or the shiny new fish. I would say the other constant is being open to partnerships. And at NEJM Group, that means building from our foundation of trust, peer review, which we excel at, as well as our clinical authority, and extending those foundations into new environments where, especially today, clinicians and patients are. And, the vision for us is broader than any single product. It's about evolving the publisher's role from being the gatekeeper to curator of trusted AI experiences. And that's across, our journals, tools, partnerships, and even education. Our publication portfolio reflects a deliberate strategy to serve clinicians across different stages of their careers and now different moments in their workflow, from clinical research to rapid practice updates. If you don't mind, I would like to just share a story that I've been telling, especially early career colleagues who are just starting in publishing. And that is, when I started in medical publishing, and it was in New York City, my boss at the time called me into her office, and I was, fresh out of college, first job. And she sat me down and she said, "David, how do you think the internet is going to change publishing?" And, I squirmed in my seat because I had no idea what the internet was. And so, I went to the New York Public Library that evening and went to the card catalog trying to find out what the internet was. And of course was very unsuccessful. But fast forward almost 40 years, and now we're talking about AI. And in my wildest dreams, I never thought that I would be sort of ending my career in such an exciting time for publishing and for organizations.
You said a few things there. And one is that AI and trusted. And so how do we build trust in this new AI technology from a publisher's perspective, from a very prestigious publishing house? What are the key tenets of trust?
Yeah. So let me try to answer that from a few perspectives. One is, is NEJM Group's core principles remain the foundation for everything we do, and that includes, NEJM AI, our new journal in that space, and our partnerships with AI companies. We uphold the highest standards of scientific rigor, ethics, and transparency because public trust is just absolutely essential to the credibility and impact of what we publish. And that standard, has to apply with equal force to AI. So, articles published in NEJM AI, for example, undergo the same rigorous peer review by multiple independent experts that have defined, our organization, institution for over 2 centuries. Research articles are thoroughly, reviewed by independent peer reviewers, physician editors, and manuscript editors to ensure accuracy, clarity, and scientific rigor. The journal NEJM AI has published, randomized controlled trials alongside other rigorous study designs. And as you know, in clinical research, RCTs remain the most reliable way to determine, causal associations in clinical research, and they're critical for establishing whether AI systems meaningfully improve real-world clinical outcomes. So, maintaining these high standards of ethical and scientific integrity is what preserves public trust in the research enterprise. And if AI tools are going to influence clinical decisions, the evidence evaluating them must be held, to the same bar or even higher, perhaps than any other interventions in medicine.
So has NEJM Group established governance standards for AI?
So that's not really our role as a publisher to establish governance standards for AI, but we certainly believe that we have a role in shaping those governance standards, and that could be through publishing research, opinion pieces within our journals, both NEJM AI as well as the flagship, the New England Journal of Medicine.
Right.
Let's just be clear here. Clinicians are increasingly using AI-enabled tools for clinical decision support as well as other administrative functions. And AI in clinical care, medicine, even research is here to stay. Now, our mission is to deliver trusted knowledge where clinicians work with the ultimate goal of, improving patient care. That's our mission.
Right.
Content licensing, in my opinion, advances our mission. And it's more than just a sort of a commercial detail. Licensing determines which AI models and tools gain access to, our trusted peer-reviewed evidence. And, as publishers of what I believe to be, some of the most trusted and cited clinical research in the world, we as a publisher, as an organization, have a very important responsibility to be working with these companies to improve their products. So that's not really, governance or setting standards, but one example that I'm sure you've heard about is our content licensing partnership with Open Evidence. And, that agreement, that relationship helps their AI to provide answers that are grounded in trusted, peer-reviewed content like our journals. And, this matters because AI tools are only as reliable as the evidence behind them. And if our content is not in these systems, we're leaving clinical decisions from these tools to, perhaps less reliable information.
That's a very good point. I don't know, recently for the Researcher to Reader conference, I actually debated um, a librarian from Swarthmore. I was pro AI, and she had the con argument. And one of her arguments was that the data in regards to mammograms did not include a lot of data from the Black community, Black women. And I argued with her that that's not an AI problem. That's a human problem, because if the humans don't put the data in, AI can only focus on what's in the corpus of data, for that. And I think what you're suggesting there with open evidence is that you're ensuring that all of the quality information is in the corpus. Is that a correct statement on my part?
Yeah, so I wouldn't go so far as ensuring. I would go so far as um, assisting and helping, because at the end of the day, it is up to these AI companies to make sure that their systems, are performing at a very high level, and that they're grounded in, the best evidence. I would say, as I said before, the bigger risk is for us not to participate
Hmm.
and to work with these companies. If trusted evidence like ours isn't part of these systems, as I said, something else will be. And clinicians, they may not be able to tell the difference. So, our role is to make sure the right information is what powers those tools.
Right.
Um, and I think you're starting to see that with, certainly if you follow open evidence and you follow, the licensing activities of other AI clinical decision support tools and ambient scribing tools.
Mhm.
These companies are recognizing the importance of and value
Mhm.
of good evidence, strong evidence. And so, you're seeing licensing deals with the leading publishers
Mhm.
happening more frequently. And I think that is going to accelerate.
Mhm. And I take it that open evidence is, as I said, open, so other publishers uh, would also have their content in there as well.
Yes, if you go on their website, you will see very clearly all of their publishing partnerships, licensing content partnerships. For
Mhm.
example, um, the American Medical Association, the JAMA
Mhm.
network journals,
Yes.
NCCN, the National Comprehensive Cancer Center Network.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that they're actively trying to license content from leading publishers and medical associations. And, I applaud them for doing that. They took the right approach. They um, really wanted to, one, partner and reward publishers for, the great content that we all create.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if we can, let's talk about the launch of NEJM AI. NEJI Group, you recently launched this new product. It's a new peer-reviewed monthly journal dedicated entirely to artificial intelligence and machine learning in clinical medicine. What drove the decision to create a dedicated journal for this topic, and what gap in the medical community are you hoping to fill?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that question. So we launched NEJM AI in December of 2023, and it's because our editors saw a need in medicine for shared enforceable standards to evaluate AI systems before they reach patients.
Mhm.
Um, and the timing is interesting because our editors had been watching the AI space for a number of years before we actually launched the journal, and determined that it wasn't quite time to launch a journal. The quality of the research, the volume of the research wasn't quite there yet.
Mhm.
Um, but we launched in 2023, and NEJM AI, as I've said before, follows the same trusted rigor as our flagship journal to evaluate AI applications. And, in this space, commercial incentives, favor speed to market. You're seeing this in, all of the venture capital activity that is funding these new AI companies, especially in healthcare. But, medicine requires a clinical standard of evidence that's grounded in real world populations, that's tested against outcomes that matter, and then scrutinized independently of developers. So NEJM AI evaluates AI by asking clinically consequential questions, such as, does this system improve patient outcomes? How was this tool or system trained and validated? Where does it fail? As you mentioned in the context of imaging, the X-rays, what biases, do these systems amplify, and how does it interact with human judgment? And history shows why this matters, because medicine has, let's be honest here, has adopted interventions that performed well, on surrogate measures, but then the clinicians discovered that, and researchers through rigorous evaluation, that some of these interventions failed to actually help patients, or may have even caused harm. And so AI presents the same dynamic, but at much faster speed and scale. And so our editors of NEJM AI are very, very selective in what they publish. It has to meet very high standards. They're encouraging the submission of research that follows the randomized controlled trial model. And NEJM AI has, I think, very quickly become a leading voice in how AI in medicine and healthcare is being shaped.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. But beyond the traditional publishing, NEJM is offering educational media like the NEJM AI Grand Rounds and specialized podcasts. How do these multimedia tools help clinicians practically and safely integrate AI into their daily clinical environments?
Uh, yeah, so first of all, let me say this. Physicians today need to be, we say, AI literate. They need to understand, how these tools, how these models work,
Right.
Where they fall down. Clinicians, they need to be critically engaged, working with these AI tools as a partner rather than just sort of trusting these tools reflexively. And physicians need to be anchored in clinical fundamentals that grow more valuable as these AI tools perform more clinical and administrative tasks.
Right.
So I'll get to your question about different formats, but making critical research and conversations accessible really is a core part of our duty as a publisher, because clinicians, they're consuming information in fundamentally different ways than they did even 5 years ago. If we only publish content research in traditional formats, we're in some ways choosing not to reach physicians where they are and meeting them across formats, whether it's journals, podcasts, multimedia, interactive tools, and even events, is how we fulfill our obligation to make evidence actionable. So, the NEJM AI Grand Rounds podcast, in my opinion, is a prime example. This is a podcast that features informal conversations with AI experts, exploring key issues at this intersection of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and medicine. And it covers how AI will change clinical practice in healthcare, how it's going to impact the patient experience, and it spotlights the people who are pushing for innovation. Um, yeah, I'm not an expert in AI. I would encourage everyone to listen to these
Hmm.
podcasts. They're really interesting. They're really inspiring. I'd also like to highlight our NEJM AI virtual events.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is probably not something that everyone is aware of, but they're free for anyone to listen to, and you can sign up.
Hmm.
These virtual events bring thought leaders together for conversations on AI in healthcare. The next one is April 22nd. They're about an hour and a half long, and as I said, they're open to all. So, whether the listener is an AI researcher, a practicing clinician,
Hmm.
or even a member of the general public,
Right.
these conversations through our podcasts, through our events, are designed to enlighten and surprise
Hmm.
as I think collectively we journey through this rapidly evolving field.
Rapidly evolving field is absolutely correct. As you know, as you may not know, but I've been involved with AI since '93, from my time at Dow Jones, and then took a break, and then of course with Calexis in 2007. And I've been waiting for this moment. What I didn't realize is that it was going to be an avalanche, which is good. So, when folks say, "Are you an expert?" I go, "No, no, no, no. I'm an enthusiast. I'm a
Yes.
supporter." But every day, something new is happening and occurring. And in your role, David, and I'm trying to think. We've known each other over, I think, over 20 years. Um, how do you, as a trusted professional in this field, who I have great respect for, how do you moderate some of the issues or concerns that are raised by outsiders about scholarly publishing should stay away from AI?
Ah. That's a great question, Darrell, because as you are aware, there's certainly been a lot of I think criticism um, thrown our way, thrown at other publishers, and yeah, I would say that it goes back to that statement I made about responsibility
Yes.
and our responsibility as a publisher. Um, and for me, I'll channel Teddy Roosevelt here. I'll channel his. I don't know if you're familiar with his "man in the arena" speech.
Oh, I have it laminated.
Okay, well then you're familiar with it.
That's right.
For me, and I think for our organization, sitting on the sideline is not really an option. As one of the most trusted and revered medical publishers in the world,
Yes.
say it again, we have a responsibility to help our readers leverage AI to better understand how it's going to impact them in their livelihood.
Mhm.
They're using AI already. So I'll say it again, we have a responsibility to
Mhm.
provide our great content to these companies, selectively, of course, but also to collaborate with them on improving the performance of their solutions. For me, the risk is that technology is going to move ahead of how it is evaluated and applied. And if AI starts influencing decisions without being grounded in strong evidence and human oversight, you lose the context and judgment that medicine depends on. So, as an organization, from our perspective, it's not just a philosophical issue, it is a system issue, and it's about how these tools are built, how content is delivered, and how standards are maintained across partnerships and platforms. So, you know, our role in ensuring that the promise of AI in healthcare is realized,
Mhm.
we have a responsibility to be an active participant, to be that organization in the arena and not just be a bystander.
That is a beautiful answer. I applaud that. I guess I've always been on the business side of scholarly publishing, launching new initiatives, and I share the concern about folks sitting on the sideline, waiting for the perfect thing to happen. But I think it's from the experiences that we have that we can learn and grow and improve. So I really applaud what New England Journal of Medicine is and AI is doing to be that thought leader. And so, how do you protect your brand in this AI era? I mean, because you're in the arena, you're balancing a lot of different things. How do you protect the New England Journal of Medicine brand?
So this is definitely a risk, to our brand, and we've certainly um, fielded skeptical questions from physicians asking, like, why are you licensing content to these AI companies? And again, it goes back, for me, it goes back to you know being partners, not just you know licensing content to these AI companies, but
Mhm.
being partners and having a voice in shaping their product and improving their products. Um, I think our brand would be viewed negatively if we weren't actually involved
Mhm.
and active, in this space. Um, and as I said, through our journal, NEJM AI, as well as the flagship, that is also an opportunity for us to be that objective, independent voice and publisher of
Mhm.
content. And what we publish may very well be critical of some of the licensing partners that we've chosen to work with. And it should be if our publications find fault in some of the solutions out there. And we will be very transparent about that, but we're also not letting these relationships bias or influence in any way what we publish.
Believe it or not, I have time for one more question. There's so many other
Have
questions
we,
that I
we,
wanted to cover,
we reached
but
the end of our time already?
I tell you, 30 minutes goes fast. As we looking ahead, as we look toward the rest of the year, what is the one major milestone or upcoming project at NEJM Group that you're most excited to share with the medical community?
Okay, Darrell, I hope that this is not going to be perceived as a non-answer from you or your listeners. Um, what I'm going to say is that there are so many interesting and innovative projects going on at NEJM Group that it is impossible for me to pick one. And I also can't provide details because of competitive reasons.
Of course,
Okay.
of
All
course.
right.
I had to
Where
ask.
what I can say is that we are working with AI companies
Mhm.
while building the infrastructure to ensure that AI is used in ways that are accurate and clinically meaningful, as well as
Mhm.
piloting the use of AI within our organization for editorial, even marketing workflows. Um, at the same time, because it's not all about AI, we are developing a more unified, I would say, digital subscription and expanding our education offerings. What I'm most excited about is how we're bringing together our content, technology, and partnerships in a more integrated way. And that's something I mentioned in the beginning. How do you be successful in this period of disruption? And I think partnerships are a very important way to be successful. So, at the end of the day, all of this is just focused on one singular goal, and that is making it easier for clinicians to access and apply, trusted evidence.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our guest, Mr. David Sampson. He's the Vice President, Chief Publishing Officer for the New England Journal of Medicine. Check out their new New England Journal of Medicine AI subscription. And David, thank you for coming on the program. It's been an absolute pleasure in sharing with us all of the great things that is happening at New England Journal of Medicine Group.
Thank you, Darrell. And I look forward to crossing paths in person with you in the near future.
And we certainly will. Well, that wraps it up this week on Leadership with Darrell W. Gunter. Please be sure to view our YouTube channel as well as our other podcasts. We want to wish you to have a great day, but always remember that leadership begins with you.
Great. Thank you.